This is the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, talking districts 5 and 6, week in, week out in the state of Idaho. Brandon Baney, as always, joined by Sean Kane. Sean, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm cold, but think about this. Put this in your mind. We are 23 days away from spring sports. 23 days, but yeah, I just started diving into some of my own coaching stuff, and it's kind of unreal to think about, considering it's so icy I can barely make it inside the school. But yeah, and district action heating up, and I just was thinking, love it or hate it, district play in Idaho is kind of something unique, and it's a very exciting time, and it's fun, and especially in basketball, because when you look through the basketball, there's not a lot of chances in basketball. So, there's a lot of parity and where you're going to be. And I just, watching a game last night and thinking, like, man, districts it's a cool thing in Idaho. Just to get that chance to play and make it to state, and all your hard work kind of culminates to right now.
Yeah, it is an exciting time of year, and we will I'll bust out my alter ego, Brackets Baney, here in just a moment as we're talking about girls hoops. I did want to mention, you're right, it's been frigid here in Idaho, really since last Friday is really when this cold front started to come in. It affected a lot of games over the weekend, and then it started affecting school, right? Pretty much every school that I know of in East Idaho was closed Monday and Tuesday. And today, finally, they're like, well, I guess we got to go back, even though it's still single digit temperatures. So it's definitely had an impact. And it specifically had an impact on one of the girls' basketball postseason games that we will get to in just a moment. But before we dive into the girls' brackets, I did want to touch really quickly on boys' basketball. Sean, last night, I had the pleasure of watching with my own eyes the Pocatello Thunder for the first time this year. We did a Magic Valley game night. Pocatello was on the road at Minico. I was running the camera / doing color for the game, and I'll tell you what, Pocatello looked pretty impressive. They got the win 68-52. It was a close game until about a minute to go in the third quarter, and that's when Pokey finally kind of pulled away. But man, I was really impressed. I guess I'm late to the party of what everybody already knew, and that's Pokey's pretty good this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you got Julian Bowie, who's obviously going to put up, a great stat line every night. But like I said previously on this cast, is that they've just got a ton of players that can go in and score and shoot threes. And I think that's what makes them really unique. Like Parker Smith, Kessler Vaughn. They just have like endless guys, Crew Hales that can come in and get them points whenever they need it. And I think that's how many I don't want to call them role players, because they've got probably like 6-7 guys that would start on other teams. You know what I mean? I think they've just got a lot of good players, and that makes that Thunder roll a little bit.
Yeah, so I was pretty impressed last night with Pocatello, specifically the way they move the ball. Their ball movement is impeccable. It reminds me a lot of the Golden State Warriors, if we're being honest, where you've got Gage Ontiveros, right, 6'10", underneath, occupying a lot of attention, rightfully so. And like you mentioned, Sean, they're all such great shooters that the defense has to account for them. You can't just leave a guy alone. And they whip the ball around the perimeter so quickly that it leads to a lot of good looks from the basket. That's what happened last night at Minico. Pokey started hot from the three-point line. They finished hot from the three-point line. Julian Bowie had 29 points in the win. He was the IdahoSports.com player of the game, presented by the Idaho Transportation Department. He was taking him from a good, 35 feet out and knocking him down. And to me, the most important guy to Pocatello's fortunes at state, because we know they've got Bowie, who can go get you a bucket if you need it. We know they've got Gage Ontiveros now, who can match up underneath with, because let's be honest, Pocatello and Hillcrest are kind of on this collision course, it appears again. Ontiveros is the guy that can handle Isaac Davis down low. To me, the important guy and the guy that really has stirred a lot of their success this year is Kessler Vaughn. To me, he's the guy. He is, if Pokey's going to do this thing and get back to the championship and get the win, he's got to be there, and he has been there for most of the year. And so I've been really impressed with Kessler Vaughn as well.
Yeah, he's a hustle player, and he facilitates, right? Like you say, you got all these guys, but who's going to get him the ball? And he, I don't think they do anything like a half court. It's like transition, and then run some more. And they do it fast. And I mean, that's the only way I could see beating them is you either match their pace or they go cold from the 3-point line, because if you double team anyone, you're going to leave someone that can shoot open. And yeah, I would agree with it there. He's a big piece of it. And I think, as long as they get that second and third scoring option, I think they're a very dangerous team.
Yeah. So anyways, I just wanted to personally say, got to see Pokey play for the first time last night. And man, they looked good. they definitely deserve all the hype for sure.
Now you have to see Preston, and then
yeah, right.
Because they had a good game. I watched. They played Hillcrest. They're beating Hillcrest at halftime, and just got away from him at the end. So again, I can't wait for that next, because Preston almost went into the pit and won, and so the next game will be down in Preston, which we know is. I heard in 13 years, only like 20 games have been lost down there or something. So some kind of crazy stat. It's hard to go down there and win. So I think that'll be a big game coming up here, either this week or next. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that'll be a big game. I think just for 4A in general, boys basketball, to see what pans out of that.
Yeah, because if Pokey wins that, they get the number 1 seed to districts, unquestioned. Which gives them the first round bye, which is huge. And even if they split, depending on the point differential, could still be Pokey's league to lose. So yes, they look very good. That was the first time I'd seen Pokey with my own eyes. I've watched film this year, but there's a difference between
the speed.
Seeing a team live versus on film. So, all right, well, let's move now to girls basketball, because the postseason has arrived. We are going to, if you're watching this video on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, I'm going to share my screen, so you'll be able to see the brackets right here on the video as we go along. If you are watching, maybe make your screen full size. That way the brackets are a little easier to read. If you are listening to this podcast at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, no big deal. You can follow along with the brackets. We've got all of them right at the homepage at IdahoSports.com. Every district across the state, every classification, all the brackets are right there. We're updating them every single night. I figured, Sean, I'd start with 1A D2 and work our way up to 5A, because 1A D2 kicked off the entire state postseason last week. We talked about this, right? Taylor's Crossing and Clark County in that play-in game in DuBois. It was a week ago. Hard to believe, but
that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at this bracket here for District 5 and 6. So Clark County did win that play-in game over Taylor's Crossing, 43-25. So they moved into the double elimination portion of the bracket. And then you'll see on the bracket here, Clark County played Rockland, the number 1 seed. They forfeited that contest, so it goes down as a 2-0 win for Rockland there. Now, I want to let everybody know, Clark County didn't forfeit the game because, boy, Rockland's so good and we're overmatched and we don't think we can compete. They had every intention of going down to Rockland and competing, but the weather was so bad on Saturday that they said, we don't want to risk it. Like, we don't want to risk driving in these really bad conditions, especially where they're at in the far north part of East Idaho. The wind was blowing really bad and driving conditions were not ideal. So that is why Clark County forfeited that game. It was weather related, nothing to do with we don't want to compete. They wanted to compete. So that was kind of a bummer. But with that, Clark County now plays Showban in a loser out game. Showban was the 4 seed. They hosted Water Springs, and we had a comment on our YouTube channel about this, saying that people are sleeping on the Water Springs girls a little bit. They nearly beat Showban the first time they played this year, and they led Ledor in their matchup with the number 3 seed for 3/4 of that game before Ledor came back and won. So Water Springs, quote unquote, upset Showban 58-39. So you've got Showban hosting Clark County in a loser out game tomorrow night. Rockland, meanwhile, is hosting Water Springs in the first semifinal, and that is tonight at 6 o'clock. So what do you think of this first semi, Rockland and Water Springs?
Well, I mean, you've got Rockland, and looking at that score line though against Showban, I thought that was going to be a close game. Obviously, we talked about that, and that's like I was saying at the start of the show is you just can't count out district play. A lot of teams come with some different looks and different things. I mean, obviously, I like Rockland to kind of come out of this district, but man, Water Springs is a dangerous 5 seed right now. And I think I think it might be, when we look back at what the score is tonight, it might be closer than we would have originally thought.
Yeah, because for Rockland now, it's been a bit of a layoff, right? They haven't played in a while. So, we'll see if they can knock off the rust there and come through. And then on the bottom half of the bracket, it went chalk. Number 2 Mackey beats number 7 North Gem 52-12. Number 3 Ledor beats number 6 Grace Lutheran 54-31. So you've got Grace Lutheran hosting North Gem in a loser out game tomorrow night at Grace Lutheran. And then the other semifinal tonight, Ledor and Mackey at 7 o'clock in Mackey. And there's a good chance these two teams are playing again later on at districts for that second and final spot to state. Yeah,
I think obviously you want to win this game, but I don't think this necessarily means it's the end of your season, right? I mean, obviously it's 2 and out, but whoever wins this, I think, is in a better position. I like Mackey. I think Mackey's played Rockland the toughest, I think, really out of anyone, in this conference. And I think they have a good chance, but Ledor again is, like you said last week, they're the team that, made it to state last year as a 2nd seed. So, kind of an interesting matchup. And like I said, the district play it's just different. Sometimes the gym's not as busy, it's just different environment. And it's kind of, if the girls are ready to come out and step up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that matchup goes tonight in Mackey. But that's what's going on at the 1A D2 level. Let's move on to the 1A D1s. This is the High Desert Conference. They had their first game Monday night. This is all taking place at Thunder Ridge High School. Chalice, the 3 seed, Butte County, the 2 seed. Pirates win 50-33, setting up the undefeated semifinal game tonight. Sean, we're recording this on Wednesday the 1st. They will play tonight at Thunder Ridge. It is 1 versus 2, Grace versus Butte County. Neither matchup was particularly close in the regular season. Grace won both. Grace is a team I think a lot of people are sleeping on. They've got Melody Stratman and just a litany of athletes behind her. They've got another Clegg, I believe, on the team. So, I mean, there's just a lot of really good players for this Grace team.
Yeah, just kind of like the football team, right? Grace is kind of just doing their thing, winning games, and it's kind of the same for girls basketball. They're just kind of, obviously the number 1 seed. It's not a gigantic district, but I would like them to probably win this out, but Grace they've been playing well all year, and they will have a good shot at winning, I think.
Yeah, Grace is 16-4 on the season. They beat Butte County by scores of 55-21 and then 47-38 in the regular season finale. So Butte County did close the gap a little bit, but man, Melody Stratman, I talked about, Carly Christensen, Sydney Smith. They've got J.C. Christensen. They've got Tenley Walker. Tenley Walker and Lindsay Rigby are the only seniors on the team. Otherwise, it is a group of 6 juniors and a sophomore. So this is a Grace team that's going to be right in the mix again next year as well. But we like Grace in this first matchup with Butte County, and we like them as well in the district championship. That will be next Monday, 7 o'clock at Thunder Ridge High. Sean, we are going to be broadcasting that game on IdahoSports.com, the district championship game between,
whoever it is.
It could be any of the 3. We think it's probably going to be Grace, Butte County in a rematch, but we're very excited to bring that game to you on IdahoSports.com. And we're getting more and more district games added to our broadcast schedule. Just keep checking the game streams tab on the homepage at IdahoSports.com to figure out which games we will be broadcasting from districts. All right, let's move to the 2A ranks, and let's start in the nuclear conference. This is kind of a funky bracket where there's 5 teams, and it's the number 2 seed that gets the bye in the opening round.
It's kind of like volleyball. Volleyball sometimes has brackets like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes think it's beneficial to play a game than to not play and wait. I don't know. That's I don't know where I stand on that, but I feel if you're the one, you should get the benefits of not having that bye. But coaches will say they don't like going in cold, which I can understand too. So.
Yeah. So the number 1 seed has to play right away, but in theory, you're playing the worst team, the 5 seed. And then if you win that, you get a bye all the way into the undefeated semifinals. So there's definitely an advantage to be in the number 1 seed. Ryrie is the 1 seed. They played Salmon on Monday and won 54-32. Then you had 3 versus 4. Firth beats West Jefferson by 11 on Monday, 44-33. And then last night, loser out game, West J knocks out Salmon 48-35. And then North Fremont, the 2 seed, off their first round bye, played Firth. So it was a 2 versus 3 matchup. North Fremont wins by 10, 36-26. So it sets up now tomorrow night. Firth will host West J in a loser out game. Ryrie will host North Fremont in the undefeated semifinal. What do we make of this matchup here? Because right now, assuming Ryrie and North Fremont both get to state, Sean, they would play in the 4 versus 5 matchup in the opening round. But it would be North Fremont who would be the higher seed based on the Max Preps rankings, even though Ryrie is the team that, actually went out and won the league. North Fremont piled up a very impressive regular season record, 18-3 overall. They did lose. 2 of their 3 losses were to Ryrie, though. The Bulldogs are 16-6.
It's one of those things where you don't want to play the team 8 times, or whatever, right? You kind of want to be done with them. So it's kind of hard. You kind of think, oh, we beat them. But man, when you have to play them that 5th or 4th time, it's like anything can happen. So, I think if you're Ryrie, you definitely want to win this, but, Firth is kind of my dark horse here, so I could see Firth and maybe North Fremont having another tough battle there. But you just kind of look at these scores, and these scores are kind of low, and you kind of see that sometimes in districts where the scoring kind of goes down a little bit. You kind of get the nerves and that kind of stuff, and so I think it'll be the team that can kind of just settle in and ride out the tournament. But if it ends up being North Fremont and Ryrie, that's kind of crazy.
Hey, that would be all right.
They have the play-in game too, though, right? Like that. So if they take second, they have to go into the play-in, correct?
Correct. So there are 1.5 bids available from this district, which is a good way for us to transition into District 5, the Southeast Idaho Conference in 2A, because the second place teams from District 5 and 6 will play each other in that play-in game to go to state. So here we have the first play-in game last night. Aberdeen had to go to Bear Lake, the 5 versus the 4. Bear Lake wins 55-25. So now we've got this 4-team double elimination tournament. Soda Springs, the number 1 seed, the overwhelming favorite. They'll host Bear Lake tomorrow night at 7. Malad won the 2 seed. I think a lot of people have been sleeping on Malad and first-year coach Trevor Jones. He's done a fantastic job with the Dragons. They are hosting Westside, the 3 seed. That also is tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. What do you think of this league, Sean? We like Soda at the top.
Yeah,
who gets that second spot for the play-in game?
Soda Springs is definitely kind of the perennial powerhouse out of this conference. But, oh, man, yeah, Malad's kind of slowly crept in there. Bear Lake and Westside both have been kind of strong. But I kind of like Malad coming out as the 2nd seed. I don't know if anyone really has enough firepower to take down Soda Springs at this point, but I kind of like Malad's chances here.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's take a look at how they did in the regular season. The same thing happened in volleyball, where Westside kept getting the benefit of the doubt, and deservedly so. But Malad was the team that beat West Side and then kept it close and kept it competitive. And they just, I don't know, they just never seemed to get their proper due. Malad went 5-3 in the league this year. They beat West Side 47-45. So they beat West Side by 2. And then in the rematch, they won by 10, 50-40. So they swept West Side in the regular season. You might be going, okay, well, where did that third loss come from? They lost to Aberdeen in kind of a head scratcher, 57-55. So I don't know what happened in that game for Malad, but I like Soda and Malad, I think, pretty easily.
Yeah, I would agree. It's just, because Bear Lake in the playing game beat Aberdeen 55-25. So that is kind of a head scratcher. But, like I said, just when you get into these district matches, they've seen each other, they know what's going on. I just like when coaches come up with something different, and we'll get into that probably, I think, a little bit later in the brackets. I'll have some more comments about that because I saw some different kind of plans and schemes last night. So that's I like Malad though, but I wouldn't be surprised if West Side's always got a great group of girls, right? And they come in and play hard, so it'll be interesting to see. But I think Soda Springs wins this district.
Yeah, I like the Cardinals a lot with Janetti Garbett and companies, Zippy Somson, and they've got a lot of really good, talented athletes there. And then, when it gets to that play-in game, if it's Firth and Malad or North Fremont and Malad or North Fremont West Side, whatever the matchup is, I still kind of lean Nuke over District 5. But that play-in game should be a lot of fun. That'll be at, I assume, the Pit. Could be the Palace.
Yes.
Pocatello High, though, Saturday, February 11th. So,
and those games are always kind of weird, right? The teams travel. It's kind of quiet. It's kind of, you have to bring, it's to me, when I watch those playing games, it's like the team that brings their own energy. Like they bring, like they've got their, their headphones in, but there's nothing on their head because they're ready to go. So I like the team that kind of comes in, like, it's still like a normal game. Our crowd's cheering for us, even though it's a, kind of a weird atmosphere.
Yeah, it's a little sterile sometimes for sure. Okay, let's move to 3A girls hoops. Let's start in District 5 this time. Snake River is the number 1 seed overall. American Falls and Marsh Valley actually tied for second, but the Beavers got the 2 seed on the strength of the tiebreaker. They got to host Marsh Valley last night, and they win 51-40. Sets up the undefeated semifinal tomorrow night. American Falls at Snake River. I like Snake to win this district, and I like American Falls to then compete in the regional play-in game against second place from District 6. And I think I think American Falls could hold up pretty well, no matter who they played, whether that was Sugar Salem or Teton. I think American Falls could hold their own and then advance to the true state play-in game. But what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're watching at home and can see that bottom half of the bracket, right, that's kind of the interesting thing. I've seen Snake River play. I've been big on Snake River. I think Snake River is gonna probably win this out and probably make a deep run at state. And then that play-in game, either Teton or Sugar, and we'll get to that, right? I mean, that's a very intriguing matchup. And then whoever wins that has to play one more. So you've made your way to state the hard way if you take second, right? I mean, it's going to be tough, but I do like American Falls. They've been a good team this year. They've kind of been a little under the radar. But Snake River is a good team. They've got some height and they've got some shooting, and they got a little bit of all. So I do like Snake River.
Yeah, I like the Panthers there as well. And so, then they will play the second place team from District 6. They had their opening game last night. Teton defeated South Fremont 65-53. They were scheduled to play each other. I think it was on Friday night in their regular season finale, Teton and South, and the weather was so bad. We talked about the horrendous weather. They said basically like, let's just scrap it. We'll see you at districts. We don't want to play you 2 times in like 4 days anyways. So let's just do the district thing. Teton wins that game last night, 65-53. So it sets up tomorrow night, Teton at Sugar in the undefeated semifinal. Sugar, of course, with Coach Crystal Daly, tremendous program year in, year out. They're definitely the favorites here. Teton could get to that play-in game, and I still think if it was Teton and American Falls, I think I'd lean American Falls just a little. But what do you think?
Man, I mean, I think it's just so tough when you get to those games. I think both teams have some experience and different things, but I think it'll kind of be like who comes, like, did you come out of it and get beat badly, or did you come out of it and you almost got it and you're like ready to go? Like what's your mindset going into those playing games? And of course, like none of this is set in stone, right? I mean, potentially you're going to have Sugar and Teton play again, right, in the next round. That could potentially happen. So it'll be interesting, but I do like Sugar kind of taking this, and I'm going to lean American Falls too, I think, at this point.
Swayed you. I talked you into it.
Yeah, I don't know. Teton will probably win now because I said that. Sorry.
I said it with such conviction. I swung you over to my side. So job well done. So yeah, that's what's going on at 3A.
They should be one conference. They should just combine.
Yes,
I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, we've talked about this on prior episodes. I just don't understand it. They all play each other anyways in non-conference, so why not?
And then you don't get that where, like, Teton's played Sugar how many times now, and maybe Sugar just has an off night, and then Teton wins, and it's kind of frustrating to keep playing the same team over again. I think, as far as the conference goes, it's when you have a bigger conference, you have a lot more kind of parity and separation from those matchups. Sometimes
happened in girls soccer this year, right? Teton ended Sugar's undefeated season. So, you never know. That's for sure. All right, let's move on up to 4A, Sean. Let's start with the High Country Conference up in District 6. We had the first round games last night, 3 versus 6. Hillcrest, the 3, beats Bonneville 56-37. The 4 versus the 5 matchup, Skyline. How about that? A little Tiger Grizz in the opening round. Skyline had to travel to Idaho Falls. The Tigers get the win 62-55. So that sets up tomorrow night a loser out game between Skyline and Bonneville. The Grizz will host that at the Taj McGrizz. And then you've got your 2 semifinals. Shelley, the 1 seed, Blackfoot, the 2 seed. They got the first round buys. It'll be Hillcrest at Blackfoot, Idaho Falls at Shelley. Shelley has been kind of the precarious leader all year. Blackfoot did get Shelley once in the regular season. Blackfoot's got the more experienced team in terms of postseason success. What do you and Hillcrest, I think, is a dark horse lurking, ready to steal one of these bids. What do you make of this Final Four here?
And I would go. My dark horse is is Idaho Falls, because I've seen Idaho Falls play, and I think they're pretty good too. They can slow it down and play. And I was kind of surprised that even though it's 4-5, I was kind of surprised Idaho Falls beat Skyline. So Idaho Falls is a team that can go out there, and I kind of think could make some noise as well. I mean, I think you got just a fantastic matchup between Blackfoot and Hillcrest in the bottom semi, and I don't know where that goes, but I would go Blackfoot just because I think their 3-point shooting kind of helps them in kind of when you get into these playoffs districts. And then Shelley and Idaho Falls, I think, will be a real interesting game. Can Shelley kind of solidify themselves as that top dog and kind of get a good win, and then make it to the championship game and kind of put it away? I don't know. I think you've got a bunch of teams here that all could compete at state, and only 2 are going to make it, right? So I think they're pretty good. And like Skyline is a 5. Skylines, I've seen them play live. They're a pretty good team for a 5 seed in a district tournament, and they're able to put up some points. So man, I'm going to lean Shelley just because they're the number 1, but I do like Idaho Falls maybe sneaking in there somehow when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and Skyline has been the biggest puzzle to me.
The head scratcher.
Yeah, I just something is missing there, and I can't put my finger on it, because every time I watch them play, they look pretty good, and yet they're 1 game away from their season being over. And this is a team that got to the championship last year and brought back some pretty big pieces from that team. So I don't know. This is something weird going on there. But anyway, I think the strength of this league is well showcased. If state happened today, and we've started a new daily feature on the website, IdahoSports.com. It's my daily bracketology. Every morning I go in and I update, based on what happened at districts. If state happened today, who would be the teams that would be in? What would the matchups be? And Shelley would be the number 1 overall seed at state based on max preps. Blackfoot would be the number 2 seed overall based on max preps. And then beyond that, Hillcrest is 7th. Idaho Falls, I think, is 9th. So you're talking about, 4 teams in the top 10 of the max preps rankings. Very strong league.
Yeah, super strong. In that bracketology thing, you've got, Pocatello versus BK is the 4 and the 5, and Bishop Kelly, and they played earlier in the Idaho shootout, and that was one of the most competitive games I've seen all year as far as girls play, just back and forth action. So yeah, there's going to be out of District 6, I think there's going to be a team that doesn't make it that would that could have some complaints. We'll just say that they could file a complaint at the complaint department. They're taking all those.
And I mean, just, if we're being real, districts 3 and 4 are very weak this year, and they both get 2 teams to state. There's going to be, if Shelley and Blackfoot get to state, those first 2 games in the opening round could get ugly, I think, personally, but we'll see. They got to get there first, and that's what's going on in District 6. Meanwhile, in District 5, you've got Pocatello, the 1 seed. They had the first round bye last night, Sean. Century was the 2. Preston, the 3. They played last night at Century at the Snake Pit. You had a front row seat for this one. Century wins by 11, 39-28, setting up now the Crosstown Showdown tomorrow night at Pokey.
Yeah, so I believe Preston got one of the Coon sisters back last night who hadn't played previously.
Great. Yeah, it's awesome.
Because it was it was a totally different team. I believe it was Chloe Coons who that didn't play previously, because Century had beat Preston by 20 points both times. But Preston, man, they came out. It was a totally different game plan. They played far different than I'd seen them play all year. And, Century was just able kind of to weather the storm and come away with a win and set up a game that will probably be really good, because, Century and the Thunder just played the other day and it went to overtime, and it was a back and forth battle too. So, of course, the Thunder girls were there watching, and, and I think, the big takeaway is everyone was, just real surprised of how different the Preston team looked. Like, I don't want to lose. I don't have to go play Preston in that next round, because they were like a totally different team. And I think that's real nice to see from them, because they've had a rough season with injuries and things like that. Just kind of get that turnaround and play a really, really good game last night. But yeah, who knows what happens tomorrow night in the Palace is where the girls play, right? And I think the Thunder have a lot of good tools. And Century's got a lot of length and height down low, and the contrast just leads to good battle. And maybe they'll play again in a couple days, right? So I might root for Century just being where I'm from, but I think Pocatello's got the tools to, whatever team doesn't make it is definitely is better than some of the teams that will, I think. And I think that's just kind of the hard part of it. But one coach told me, you just got to win to make it. You can't really complain, because it is what it is. You either win the games or you don't.
I think I know which coach said that. That sounds like, yeah, I got a pretty good idea of who had that opinion. And they're right. You got to worry about what's in front of you, right? You can't.
Yep. And I think that's the best way to do it. And it's just kind of a good philosophy, because, a lot of these District 5 and District 6 conferences and whatever division they have the small tournament, and, you just got to go and win, and that's it. And then you win districts, get to state, then it's a whole different show, right?
Yeah, I did hear an interesting rumor, and I think the Idaho Statesman has kind of reported on this as well. This isn't really the time for this conversation, but there are some 4A teams in East Idaho that are on their way up to 5A. And the thinking is that, okay, we're tired of Boise having this mega conference. East Idaho is going to have a mega conference of, 8 or 9 teams, and we're going to be able to then have more representation at state. So that will be fascinating. That's a future problem, but that's what I've heard, and that's kind of seems like that's where we're headed. So
yeah, I mean the numbers don't lie. So
right.
In the next cycle, there's going to be a ton of movement and shake up, and it'll be interesting to see. And hopefully, and just to kind of get on my soapbox, I just hope people and districts realize that more reps, more representation is better, and any way we can kind of get that, I think would make it better. And I think then you get a better state tournament, you get the best teams, and sometimes Idaho is not progressive, and that's okay, but we're taking steps. And I think when you get the best teams, you get the best tournament, then there's no complaints, right? You got the best teams, you go up, you win, you lose, whatever, but you got the best teams there. But the reps need to equal out, so we have I think the tournament in the best possible form it can be. My own opinion.
Yes. And there's certain classifications where districts 5 and 6 come together, and there's certain classifications where they are very staunchly apart. And I think, especially at the higher level, blending that and getting everybody in the same sandbox is an idea that everyone seems to be on board with, to at least try then to get more auto bids to state and things like that. But anyways, another topic for another day. Let's finish with one of the classifications where 5 and 6 are together. That is the 5A ranks. It's been chalk. Last night we had the opening round matchups. Thunder Ridge, the 1, beat Highland, the 4, 64-17. Rigby, the 2, beat Madison, the 3, 40-29. So Thursday, tomorrow night, it is Madison hosting Highland in a loser out game. And Thunder Ridge, Rigby, round 3 in the undefeated semifinal. This will be at Thunder Ridge, 7 o'clock. And then, there's a good chance we're talking about Thunder and Rigby meeting up for a 4th time in the district championship. And if, both teams get to state, maybe a 5th time at state. How crazy is that?
Yeah, the little caveat I got the other day that I didn't know, when Thunder Ridge went up to Rigby and won, that was the first time Thunder Ridge had ever won at Rigby, the girls.
So wow.
So they had never won there. They won. Aspen Caldwell had like 100 points last night or something. 29 points. The Idaho commit. I think she's the real deal, man, and it's going to be hard to come up with a game plan to beat that team. I like Rigby and Thunder Ridge playing, for that second time. I just don't think Highland or Madison have the firepower that like Rigby or Thunder Ridge, and I think they'll be playing at least twice.
Yes.
Cold hard predictions.
Yeah, I think that's and hey, that's the title of our podcast, Cold Hard Predictions. I like it. Yeah, so that's what's going on in East Idaho postseason girls basketball. We're talking about, with Thunder Ridge and Shelley and Snake River. Those are all teams that are going to be 1 or 2 seeds at state.
Rockland.
If they get there. Rockland would be a 1 seed overall. You're talking about I'm trying to think if there's any others. Grace would be a top 3 seed. So there's some strong teams from East Idaho that could be making the trip over to Boise to compete at state. But we'll see who gets there. And we will be back next week to update more brackets and talk more boys hoops as well, Sean. It's an exciting time, as you said at the beginning.
Yeah, it's just a fun. Yeah, it's just, it's there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of sad too, right? Because someone doesn't make it. But I think that's what makes it worth it. And, the quote is, if you're not nervous, then it's not worth it. So, the Century girls, I think, came out a little nervous last night, and I had to give them credit because they knew it was important and it was worth it. And I kind of thought about that as I was, they're using my excellent voice PAing. It's worth it. And you're gonna have to get through those nerves, and those teams that figure that out. That's what it's all about. And I really like the district action and the rivalries, because that's what I mean. It's basically a rivalry game every night right now, because you're in your district. It's either an inner city team you're playing, or you're the team you play for the last 50 years, and always having that battle.
Yep. It's going to be a lot of fun for sure. So we'll buckle up and get ready, and we'll be back again next week to break it all down for you on another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast. Enjoy the competitions this weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.